Dr. Smita, please switch on your microphone.
Can you hear me now? Yes. It is indeed a pleasure to now have the opening remarks by our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Satish Kumar Bhandari. He has a track record of distinguished service in eminent institutes such as KMC Mangalore and our own Kshema Medical Academy, where he has served as a Vice Dean and Deans for over a decade. He has a long list of positions held. Some of the eminent ones are like the President of IMA South Canada, President of All India Association of Otorhinolaryngologists. His immense contribution to advancement of his branch is evident through the numerous national and international publications, patents, and invited lectures. His compassion and concern to the society is seen in his involvement of the highest order in social causes. He is the recipient of various honors and awards, such as Aryabhatta Award for eminence in the field of medicine. He is a distinguished alumni from MAHE, an eminent educationalist award, Samajaratna, Saurabharatna, and several others. The most important is that he is a fellow of the elite club of FRCS from the Royal College of Surgeons of England since 2018. His vision and mission for our university is clearly seen in the escalation of the university ranking and grading, in which his role is very vital and pivotal. I now hand over the session to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Satish Bhandari, for his opening remarks.
Good morning, Dr. Smita, for your wonderful introduction. I welcome Anita Agarwal, Head of DST Tech Project, and from the DST New Delhi for participating in this webinar. I welcome all other resource persons, Indrani and my colleague Alka Kulkarni for this interesting webinar on DST Tech project. As Indrani said, it's very new to us. I'm really delighted and happy to get this project to the university, this prestigious project to the university. I understand that we are one among the 6 universities in the country to bag this prestigious DST Tech Award. I hope we'll do the justice. I think with the very able leadership of our team from the university, with the Indrani and Vidya Karnasagar and Dr. Smita Hegde and her team. And I hope it will be one of the successful projects among our various projects which we have executed from the university. Dr. Anita had the opportunity to visit the university. She had been to the university and she visited various centers and she has seen our infrastructure. To remind her once again, we are one among the reputed universities in the country. We are very young, actually. We are just 11-year-old university, but we are NAAC accredited and 70th in National Institutional Ranking Framework. And we are in QS rank. Recently, we had QS ranking also. We are within the 500 university in the Asia ranking. And as you know, our university is a mainly health-related university, except architecture and communication. We have got medical, dental, pharmacy, biomedical science, and nursing colleges. And our flagship organization is our 1,000-bed hospital with the 21 rural health centers. It's one among the few universities which has got 21 rural health centers. It's spread out in 4 districts of Karnataka and 1 district of Kerala. We are treating around 4 to 5 lakh patients in both centers and in the hospital. And most of the treatment is subsidized. And in the periphery, we are giving free treatment also to patients, about numbering around 1.5 lakhs. And we have invested a lot on research. And Indrani will be talking to you about our investment on research in the university. We established 6 laboratories, research laboratories of high-end research. And they are doing a lot of research on biomedical science and health-related projects. As you know, this university is situated in one among the prominent cities of the state, Karnataka state. This is one among the second largest city in the state. And as Indrani said, we have got very reputed medical colleges, engineering colleges, and we have got many many colleges, reputed colleges, attracting students from all over the country. We have got, as you know, we have got National Institute of Technology, NITK, in Surathkal. Then we have got Fisheries College. They got reputed national laboratories doing research on plantation crops. Then we have got a lot of, we are well connected by rail, air, and even we have got a harbor here. So these are the advantages of having this project to Mangalore and particularly to NITE University. I hope the project, the DST Tech project, will be executed by the university with all interest and zeal. I think we'll come out with the substantial contribution to the community through this DST Tech project. And I request Anita Agarwal to guide us to how to take it, because since it is a very new project to the whole country, I think we had discussion when she was here. I think she will do the hand-holding and she will guide us. And I hope this is a successful project by the DST. Wish you all the best. And I hope in the next half an hour or 45 minutes, we'll have discussion regarding how to take DST Tech project backed by NITE University forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. We now move on to the next speaker, Dr. Anita Agarwal, who will be speaking on the philosophy of the DST Tech. Dr. Anita Agarwal is a scientist in the Department of Science and Technology, as we know, DST, and is managing the Technology Development Program, TDP program, through which it supports proof of concepts for technology, techniques, processes, products into advanced prototypes, along with validation and demonstration in actual field settings. She is a chemistry graduate and a rank holder from Delhi University in Masters in Organic Chemistry, a PhD holder in Biochemistry and Immunology. Who else could be at the helm of the affairs with such qualifications? She is a recipient of several national research fellowships, and with 12 years of research experience in the field of biochemistry and immunology, with a focus on cancer, tuberculosis, anthrax, and several other infectious diseases. She has several peer-reviewed publications in international journals. And recently, she has assisted the Technology Development Board in managing the call for COVID and served as an observer on the Committee for Diagnostics for COVID-19 in DST. Her simplicity, her pragmatic thinking, problem-solving capacity, and the clarity of objectives and vision for translating science and technology for India is profound and intense. It's an honor to have you on board, ma'am. I now hand over the session to Dr. Anita Agarwal.
Thank you, Dr. Hegde, for such an elaborate introduction. I mean, I am minuscule to the related to the words that you have said for me. And good morning, Dr. Bhangari, Dr. Karuna Sagar, and Dr. Hegde. And it's always a pleasure to interact with you. And I mean, I take it as an honor to be on the platform, same platform again, and interact with you. Regarding the introduction that Professor Bhangari gave, and he said NITE University is relatively very new. But see, we believe in catch them young mogo. Since you are new, you are not conditioned or biased to what is happening in the Indian system. And you have the zeal to grow, and you will always take up the good things and absorb the good practices and then move ahead. So you are not conditioned, you are not biased by the system. And your social efforts and the thought process, that is the philosophy that is going behind the institution, is really praiseworthy. And we have interacted with you throughout the presentations that we had Getting a TEC was not an easy job, and Dr. Hegde and Professor Karuna Sagar will definitely agree with me. They have gone through so many rounds of presentation. It was not given at the spur of the moment. And it was like all the selection process, it was very transparent. And whosoever came to us, we gave them a good opportunity to present their thought process. So it's not only about like what you are doing and how new you are. It's about your enthusiasm and how eager you are to deliver and work for the society that fetches you any project. So often the government departments, they are accused of being like favorable, like they favor more the established universities and they would like to invest more in those places. But I feel once you have this kind of experiences, so you can get away with those negative thoughts. And moreover, I really appreciate the good work that your university is doing. So whenever we thought of a problem, so we have to think of local issues first. So you have to think of what is the problem in the local area and how you can solve it using the global practices. So the motto should be think local and act global. So whatever global solutions are available, so we have to congregate them, or whatever our expertise is there. So we have to use that expertise to solve the problems of our masses, like whatever the problems which are surrounding us in our vicinity. So in order to grow globally, so first you have to put your home in order. So before stepping out of the home. So it's very important to address your local issues. So I will just take you through the presentation. Initially, I will be just giving you some brief history and vision, how the science and technology has evolved in the country. And then I will try to link that philosophy of the country with the technology enabling centers. How we have envisioned these centers and how we have got the vision and idea to create these centers. So can I have my first slide, please? So DST, the role of DST is primarily to build science and technology and innovation capacity and capability in the country. So all the scientific departments, there are 6 to 8 scientific departments. They are working in a space to build up STI capacity in the country. So they could be our regular extramural grant funding departments like DBT, DST, or ICMR, or agricultural research, or they could be strategic departments like DIDO, atomic energy, or space. So all these departments, they are striving to build the science, technology, and innovation capacity and capability in the country with the help of R&D inputs. So apart from building this capacity in the country, what exactly we have to do? We have to align first like this ourselves with the national missions, which are already there, which have been announced by the government, national priorities like Make in India, Swachh Bharat, Smart City, Startup India, Stand Up India. So we have to align ourselves with all those programs. And apart from that, we have to find a space for ourselves with our efforts to conform to SDGs also, Sustainable Development Goals. So that is a global agenda. So we have to conform to global agenda as well as we have to conform to national agenda. So all our programs, all our R&D approach is to aligning ourselves to these SDGs and national missions. And whatever we are delivering should be sustainable. And all those solutions which we are offering, they should be inclusive in nature. So all this goes in the philosophy of TCs also. So whatever is applicable in the global science and technology and innovation perspective is applicable to our TCs also. The key word is sustainable and inclusive solution. And we have to align ourselves, whatever activity we are doing, to the national missions, and they should serve our sustainable development goals also. So next slide, please. So the emerging space of science, technology, and the global innovation in global economy is basically driven by 3 pillars: science, technology, and innovation. Science, as you know, can be done only with the government support. No organization will come and support you to do the science. Any industry, if you are doing only basic science, which gives rise to knowledge. And knowledge is always scholarship driven. So next pillar is technology. Technology is always market driven. If you have a technology and it is of no use to anybody, it is lying on your shelf, so it is not a technology. So you have wasted all your time and effort in developing something which is of no good use to anybody. So technology should have some kind of market pull, and it is the
was advising us about our website, how our website should be. So she was requesting for a uniformity of the structure of the website. Okay. So that the design and other things our request to have a uniformity in structure. So all the texts will be have same kind of objectives to offer, same kind of services and similar
no.
guidelines.
Services you can select on your own, because each tech will be serving to different kind of stakeholder base.
Yeah. Yeah. I think now everybody is on board and we will start your presentation again. Yes, I think give us a couple of minutes.
No issues. I was initial first two slides were just introduction. So we can start off with we are at third one now.
Yeah.
We apologize for the interruption.
No, ma'am, it's okay.
I've already done that, Dr. Kendrani.
Okay. Thank you for that. Because I came on board only now, that's why.
No, ma'am. These things are like this happen with everybody. Not unique to you.
I know the whole country had to go on a break mode due to COVID, and we are
True.
second slide.
So third slide. Can you come to third slide? These are just introductory slides. So
next one.
Next.
Yeah.
So this is what I was talking about, the STI policy, like how STI system, science, technology and innovation system, has evolved over a period of time. So initially when the science policy resolution was passed in 1958, so at that time our focus was on laying the foundation of science and scientific temper within the folks of our country. And then a technology policy resolution was passed in 1983. And there our focus was on technological self-reliance. How do we become self-reliant in terms of technology? In the same way today, Prime Minister Modi ji is saying, Atmanirbhar Bano. So we are revisiting those slogans. Jab hame kaha gaya tha ki we have to be self-reliant. We were denied the technology for nuclear power, for establishing the nuclear power plant and all those nuclear testing and all. We were denied the nuclear fuel. So at that time, the focus was on becoming self-reliant, have your own, you have technology to meet your own needs. And the choice of technology. What kind of technology do we need for our local consumption? So that was the focus during the 1980s. Then first time when we seriously started thinking about doing science, that was in 2003. So science technology policy was released, and there we got massive hikes in R&D spending by the government. So there the focus was to build up the S&T capacity in the country, in the researchers. So the focus was basic research. So you publish papers and attain excellence in doing the basic research. And after that, the aspiration for the nation, the tone was set by the Science Technology Innovation Policy, which was launched in 2013. So their science and technology was integrated with a new dimension, that is innovation. So all these pillars, they need to be integrated nicely to bring about any kind of economic benefit for the nation. So these three components were identified as the integral components for doing science. And the integration of these components should set up a tone, set up a pathway for India, which is high-tech led pathway. So high-end technology plays a major role here. And the other component which was identified was innovations. And after this policy, a major boost was given to the startup ecosystem within the country. All those incubators which were already funded by the government in bits and pieces, since like that move was started in around like 90 towards late 90s. So that move picked up after this policy, and people seriously started thinking about how to convert science and technology into like innovative solutions which can be offered to the society. How do you deliver the fruits of science and technologies to the society? So science is all about individual gratification and individual achievements. If you have an impact factor of 100, or if you have 100 publications, it's all about individual achievements. How do you translate that benefit of individual achievement to society by and large? That is governed by the technology. So translate that innovation into the technology, and then transfer it for the benefit of the people. And the main vehicle for this transformation or translation throughout the world is through industry. Researchers cannot develop the technology and then circulate it to the masses. Researchers can only show you a way. Look, this is how it has to be done. Later on, it has to be taken by the industry. So that is why you see a massive bloom and a massive investment in startups these days. Many of the government departments, they are giving funding for startups, and they are liberally funding and supporting the startups. Government of India is day in and out is thinking of new policies and new ways to handhold these startups and take them to the next level. But as a technology partner, what we can do for this ecosystem is to enable them with the technology. So the next slide, please. So the vision of the Department of the Science and Technology for maybe coming 10 years or 15 years is, first of all, we have to enhance the quality and relevance of R&D. Right now, as far as publication is concerned, in scientific research publications, peer-reviewed publications is concerned, we have reached the third place. So, I mean, beyond that, if you go, so only China and US are ahead of us. So we have reached, like globally, we are at a very decent place and we are doing very good science. But this is only reflective in numbers. When you look at the quality output, so in quality output, we are lagging behind. If you look at our innovation index also, so we have improved our positions from like 3 gigax to 2 gigax. We are somewhere between 50 and 55 now. But again, we have to spruce it up and we have to further go up in the like first 30, the kind of manpower, the bubbling youth we have. So we have to use that asset and move forward. Then next is translation technology and taking innovation to the market. So this is what our TEC should also be doing. Then connecting academia, R&D labs, industry, startups, MSME, and ministries. So it's not only about establishing the connection between your industry and MSME. You have to help them out in sorting out some government hurdles also. So as a medical institution, you can claim that, okay, fine, this product has been developed and we have checked it. And the government can safely acquire it when they are placing the bulk orders. So it's not only technological side where you have to hire all of them, but you have to help them with the validation and other things also. So I'm just quoting an example for TC. The next is societal connect and contract. Like for fishermen, if you can find some low-cost solution, which can like save them or give them some kind of early warning system for the fishermen who are going in the sea. So if those technologies have been developed elsewhere also, so TEC can just identify those technologies and then just bring those solutions for your own people here. So globally, you look for solution, get them here. That can be very well done by our TEC. Then diversity and inclusion. So you have to reach out to diverse populations. And whatever we are doing, all our efforts should be inclusive. So enabler has to enable everybody in the vicinity, whether it is your industry, whether it is your local bodies, or the other institutes which are surrounding you. So you have certain strength of character. That is why you have been given this activity. So you don't have to think about yourself here. You are not, that is why we have inhibited. We have simply said TECs are not going to do any kind of research work, so that there is no conflict of interest, and you can go out and help others. So if you can help others and bring out some good projects or some good technical know-how from the people, so who have reached a certain level, you want to take it forward, you are most welcome to come to other schemes of DST. We will see how to handhold you in taking that forward. But TEC per se is not going to do any research work. So next, the most important agenda these days with the government is we have to align all our activities towards the national priorities. Next slide, please. So the new challenges in the present context, all of us are aware of, like Make in India, Swachh Bharat, Swasth Bharat. So this is a very challenging task. So to align ourselves to the needs of the country. Otherwise, prior to like this era, prior to this SKIP 2013, everybody was doing their own research, what they wanted to do. But now if you are doing some kind of research, you have to align yourself, and you are looking for government funding. Then you have to align yourself to the government programs. So there is a radical shift now, as you will observe, from the tool-based science. You are no longer a physicist, you are no longer a chemist. You have to find a solution to the problem. So any tool cannot find a solution to the problem alone. Say if you are a biochemist and you have developed a PCR you have designed some oligomers for amplification of this COVID genome also. Since this is a pandemic and everybody is well versed with COVID RNA virus now. So for RT-PCR, you have designed some oligos. Now you want to take it to the market. So your strength was designing, you are a bioinformatic person, your strength was that you could analyze the genome, identify the conserved regions and look for very good oligonucleotides, which will give you 100% result. So you have done your job. Now, when you go to TEC, now TEC has to identify how to convert this research, how to convert this into a actual kit. So for that, you need to interact with the person like who are making oligomer. You have to interact with some industries. Then you want to look for a platform, whether these primers can be used in the loop-based assay or they can be used in the gene editing technique. So what next platform, readout platform you can use? Or you can use some electronic platform for instantaneous assay. So that kind of capacity should be there in TEC. So you should have multi-disciplinary teams with you, where the experts are sitting with you and they can guide that person. Okay, this is the next course of action you have to take. So this is what TEC should be doing, identifying, and then how to drive that tool-based approach to problem-solving approach. So how to build up the teams? Okay, fine. Then you identify, okay, IIT has this capacity. They have developed a RT-PCR. So you link that person with them and then make the oligo and then do the RT-PCR. Then you identify which startup is doing or which industry is making the kit. Then you form a team like this. So this is what you have to facilitate. So once the team is there, they can get funding from a number of places. So TEC should help in this team building exercise so that the team can find solution to the problems. So it's not for the first time that DST has designed any program specific for universities. So the PERS is already being implemented by DST for so many years. And as you can look at, if you look at the landscape, next slide, please. So if you look at the landscape of PERS activities, so almost we have our presence in all the parts of the country. So this is for this scheme is for providing the infrastructure to universities for ICT activities. So this is a very old scheme of DST, and till date the scheme is active and they are supporting for developing infrastructure. I think this is a department specific scheme specifically for universities. So when this scheme was analyzed, so now the new suggestions that have come up is the ICANN index of faculty members in the universities should be considered when you are providing them infrastructure support. And the second main important point that has come up is that whatever research they are doing, they have to align themselves to the national agenda. So I just want the message to take home is the perspective of all the schemes. The conventional schemes also is shifting towards the alignment to national priorities. And then why universities? I mean, what is so special in universities so that you have to design some new programs and continuously think of doing something for the universities? So if you look at the next slide, please, patent data. If you look at the patent data, if you look at we have analyzed the patent data for around 1,000 higher educational institutions. So in that institutions, we have included our NIRF ranking universities also. So NIRF rankings, the universities which have participated in NIRF rankings. So those universities we have included. So the share of patents of universities is abysmally low. We almost when we analyze the patents awarded data for last 12 years, so the patents which have gone to the credit of universities, I think it was less than 10%. And universities, if you look at higher education, so they comprise almost 95% of our higher education system. So as per the UGC records, we have 935 universities. And when we look at their contribution to the innovation ecosystem, if you look at the publication data, still they are scoring fairly well. But when you look at the innovation system or the patent filing, so universities are lagging behind. So what should we do? How do we push these universities, which are cradles, which should be the cradles of innovation, which should be bubbling with ideas? Because the biggest asset you have is the manpower, the students which are coming to you, and that too for a longer duration of time. So how do we capture that? How do we utilize that resource which is available with us? So it's very important to connect these universities with the performing institutions who are in the technology and innovation domain. That is national research labs, which are funded by various universities. And the other connect, which is important, is the industry. If we can complete this triangle, so these universities, they will contribute more to our national innovation system compared to any other higher educational entity. See, when you look at the data of IITs and all, so their students are going with a different mindset. Most of them, they want to just have their degree and then they have the assurance for job and a good future in MNC. But university is one place where you can encourage your students to take up technology development activities, have cross-fertilization of ideas, have multidisciplinary team, because you have arts people, you have science people, you have linguistic people. So these people can work together and come up with the new solutions to the existing problems. So these interlinkages, they can really bring about an innovation spurt in the country, and it has potential to reach out to the masses. So with this background now, as far as what I would like to tell you what we are doing. Next slide, please. So from DST, as a part of technology development programs, we have identified some focus areas which are aligned to national needs: advanced manufacturing technologies, waste management, biomedical device, and technology development program. Then we have device development program through generic platform, device and technology development. And the latest of our activity is technology enabling centers. So when we also analyzed our data, so these technology development programs are as old as DST. They have been there since inception of DST. That was way back in 1975. So, but when we look at delivery, again, we find universities are like almost negligent presence of universities. Not only the low presence of universities, but if you look at the project completion data also, so they are not able to reach up to the prototype development stage only. They can only show the feasibility of concept. So when we, in order to address all these stumbling blocks, we thought of creating these enabling center in the universities. In the past also, DSTB has been a cradle of many departments like Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Earth Sciences, Department of Renewable Energy. All these departments have originated from DST. And even now, like once we have designed this program of TEC, we want to experiment on this program. We want to have these centers in some universities of the country. In the first phase, we have given 9 centers to the universities and 2 satellite centers. So all from all over the country, we received around 100 applications and only 9 were supported till date, and 2 satellite centers who will be working with the main centers. So what we have in our mind is to go up to 25 or 30 centers at the most, establish them as a model, and then we want universities and UGC to take this program forward. So it's overwhelming for us also, and it's our good fortune. We have got we have identified the good universities, and while we were identifying the universities, we have kept that in mind. We take some. It's a like good mix of universities. First, they have different geographical locations, and second point that we have kept in mind is that you should have a mix of universities, some technical universities, some private universities, and some generic universities. So we have taken universities who are performing exceptionally well. We have taken universities which are relatively new in the system. So all kinds of universities are included in this kitty, where we have different expectations of different deliverables from them. Some universities have very well established mechanisms, so at least we have assured success over there. But the new universities have been included in the kitty so that at least they can learn best available practices from the already performers, and they can devise their own new methodology. They can experiment something new to deliver. Next slide, please. So the vision I have already discussed. So we want to bridge the gap between technology development and incubation activities. So TEC is not incubation activities. Incubation activities is meant for startups, and majorly it is meant for students. But here you are enabling your ecosystem. You are enabling industry. You are enabling your faculty. You are enabling the other faculty. So please don't confuse it with the incubation activity. We are not into any kind of incubation activity. Rather, TEC can encourage students and faculty to participate in the incubation activity. So they have to bring them to a level where they can get into incubation. See, normally with our experience, when I have on numerous occasions, I have interacted with startups also. So what we see, the startups, they start from the idea to proof of concept, then prototype. So by the time they go for validation, so that idea no longer holds the appeal to the takers. So in order to bridge this gap, so the startups also, they should start functioning, or they should be incubated once they have at least proof of concept. See, idea and proof of concept, they should be worked in the lab only. So TEC is so that the chances of their success, the chances of them graduating out from the startup ecosystem should be more. So right now the challenge we are facing is we have supported so many startups. So as per the government data, there are more than 40,000 registered startups which are functioning in the country. But when you look at how many of them are graduating to the big industries, the data is abysmally low, and it is so maybe out of 40,000 we hardly see 40 or 50 startups which are graduating to the next level. So in order to assure their performance in the ecosystem, it's very difficult. At least you have prototype stage with you when you are incubating those ideas. So enabler is not an incubator, and enable should enable by encouraging the technology-based solutions. You have to increase the technology outflow. Enabler has a catalytic role in the system. So you have to enable your own people. Just, few minutes back, I give you an example of that bioinformatics guy who has designed the oligos. So you have to enable your own faculty. You have to identify your partners in the system. You have to enable others also. So just like your own faculty, there may be some other faculties also who have partial solution to a problem. So you have to enable them and help them in forming the teams to arrive at the complete package of the solution. Then you direct them, okay, fine, this is a route to startup. This is the incubator we have in vicinity where you can go and incubate. So that is the function of the lab which we see. Then you have to go to industry and society. Say local government, if they have a problem, for example, waste management. So there is a particular kind of waste which is accumulating with your and your local urban body is not able to find a solution to that. To look for a solution, import that solution, and help them to adopt that solution. So when I came to Nikkei, already Dr. Hegde and Professor Karuna Sagar, they discussed with me how they have helped the Chemco industries to identify. They were looking for, I think, dry extraction plant, if I'm not mistaken, carbon dioxide extraction plant.
Yes.
Supercritical extraction plant. So how you have identified that IIT Bombay has a solution to that problem, and which industry on their own, it was very difficult for them to identify such solution. And then how to import that solution and help the local industry to adopt that solution. So this is like one of a classic example of activities which can be taken by the Technology Enabling Center. See, once the ready-made solution is there in the country, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to guide the industry to how to go for that solution. So it's a kind of role of a negotiator, you can say. So until and unless you have dedicated manpower for it, I don't think as a professor alone you would like to indulge in such activities, leaving your research and your regular classes which you are taking. So this is like one of the prime activities or how the TEC should function. So already you have already set a tone, and we were really impressed by that example. So with this vision, the objective of these enabling centers is to create an ecosystem for technology development in universities, and next slide please. And so that they can network with other researchers and industries. So for that, first of all, you should have your own capacities and capabilities clearly listed out in your website, so that people know what you are doing, and then how they can reach out to you through TEC. So you have to identify your own strength, and for all areas, you have to sit with your partner institutions and then form the teams, so that they also feel included in your activities. So if you want to involve somebody in your activities, the best part is you make them a member of team. So they also become responsible for it, and they will respond. In that case, then they will respond well. So then the focus of these centers, the other objective is they should provide an enabling ecosystem, process, and support system. You have to enable others. You don't have to do anything for your own research or for yourself. So you have to enable, you have to enable your researchers also. So this is not a PI specific scheme. The center, the Technology Enabling Center, is not given to a single investigator. It is given to the university. So university has the ownership for this center. I mean, this activity does not belong to Dr. Hegde or Professor Karuna Sagar. They have not won the center. So Nikkei is the flagship university which has got this center. So the ownership lies with your vice chancellor. So you are just the coordinators. You have been assigned to do this job. So once university take the ownership, so it is available to everybody. It is not the personal property of the two coordinators who came and represented university over there. So it's very important that everybody should take ownership of the activity, and everybody should feel that we are also equally important to the system. So that is why it is not given to an investigator, it is given to a university. University has this center. So TEC will not take any research activity. Because once your TEC starts taking up any kind of research activity, then the objective will be diluted. Because you will be, then the personal interest will come in, and you would like to serve your own personal interest. So that is why we have barred TECs, Technology Enabling Centers, to take any kind of research activity. You have to facilitate others, create, an ecosystem for them to do better research, translate it, and then you have to guide them to the appropriate funding agencies also. You have to help them to make the proposal, guide them, okay, fine, this is the call and this is the proper channel. And you can even connect them with the CSR funding also, corporate social responsibility fund. Now it can be used for research. So you have to cap that resource also. So once we support this enabling centers for 3 to 5 years, university has to take an ownership. So university should find some value in these systems so that they can take the ownership. So that is also the responsibility of coordinators to establish the faith of university in these systems so that they are willing to take the ownership after 3 years or 5 years, whatever the time period will be. And the primary stakeholder will be your faculty. So, I mean, for addressing different kind of problems, you will be making different multidisciplinary schemes. So you should have to map the expertise available in your institute and in neighboring institutes in and around, which can help you in solving these problems. And eventually you can extend your students also. Next slide, please. So as I already discussed, you have to mind the technologies, what kind of technologies are lying with your partners, and then you have to do the choice of technologies also. Then you have to identify which technologies are relevant today and which can be taken to the next level. So once you have identified that, then you have to identify what kind of resources, what kind of expertise is required to take those technologies to the next level. Then you do the mapping and assessment of technologies of the industries which are in and around you. Then you do market studies. What kind of market potential those technologies have. And then you can recommend the developers. You can help them in formulating the right kind of teams with the already established players in the field. And then TAC can also help in getting access to the industry reports. And then they can bring out regular updates. So you will always, I mean, we are also preparing our technology compendium in GST. So through technology development programs, whatever technologies we have developed, so those will be given to all the TECs. You can display them on your website. So if anybody is interested in taking those technologies, right away it can go to them. Otherwise, also you can just keep on building your own repository also. Whatever you have. So you just keep on enriching that repository. I have seen Dr. Smita Hegde, she has labeled the trees in the campus. So you have a repository of more than 1,000 trees with you. So similarly, you have a repository of technologies also. So that was a very good initiative. You scan a barcode, you just scan it and you know what exactly the tree is. So similarly, you have a repository of technologies also, which is available with researchers in and around you. The stage of maturity. And if somebody needs it, then how do you take it to the next level? So all these are the activities of TEC, what TEC should be doing. So you should have your newsletter circulated to the wider audience. So once you have a newsletter, already it is going to your 9 TECs and 8 other TECs and to your member TECs. It will come to GST. So once we have these channels established, so this information can be circulated in a widespread manner. So then you further circulate it to your stakeholders, your other member institutes and member industries also. So you just have to keep on building up step by step. And once your university will find a value to it, they will be happy to own it. Anybody will take the ownership of something which is adding value to the system. So this is the next slide, please. So this is the structure we have kept for TEC. So we have given manpower. Capital grant has been given only for the office setup. You need to have some laptops or some computer systems or some main server for data processing and all. So there you can use the capital grant. And then activities, we have already told you, okay, like these are some of the activities, training program. Like for example, now this pandemic is plaguing the nation. So at least the KECs should come up with creating some kind of webinars or having some kind of sensitization workshops. In these times, KECs can do this kind of activities. So, and then you can have interactive meets with the industries using the online web platforms also. Now, this is a like very good mechanism to reach out to any kind of folk who are sitting anywhere. So, I mean, we should exploit these technologies optimally now and try to reach out to people. So, again, like these are the key parameters on which we will be monitoring these technology enabling centers. I mean, because of this pandemic, and there were some issues in DSK also with our budget. So, all this has been delayed by around 9 months. So, in another 3 months, after 3 months, definitely by September or October, we will be monitoring all the TECs. Already, all the TECs have been given their 6 months targets also. So, by that time, you have to be ready with all the websites and everything so that at least you have a good progress to show. So the indicators that we have used. So these indicators itself are like defining what exactly your TEC should be doing. Technologies. When we talk of technologies, then you have to show how much you have point. Last, I think this is second last, 14th slide. Next slide. I'm on next slide, please. Yeah. So when we talk of technologies, so technologies means how many technologies you have facilitated, whether it is for development from POC to the next level or transfer to the industry or getting it from somewhere and giving it to the local industries, giving the solution to local people. So all that will be covered under technologies, patent applications. So earlier your university was not filing any applications. Now you have contributed towards your partners and your universities to file 10 patent applications, 20 patent applications. That number has to be specified. And these indicators have to be new. This is a very dynamic system. We are as new as you are. And this kind of system has not been experimented elsewhere in the world. We have checked all the major global programs. So this kind of program, I mean, we could not find this program anywhere else. And now UGC and AICT, they have taken up the framework of this program and little bit modifications they are doing, and they are working with our committee members also to come up with their own programs. So we are also evolving with you. So this all is dynamic, and you, all the TECs are welcome to add more indicators and more activities to the charter. So we will be very happy to have your ideas on this. So these are the representative ones which we could think of as a technology enabler that you should be doing. So patent applications, design registrations. So if somebody has designed some basically more for engineering folks, so if they have some designs so they can have, then how do you get industry funds to your university for your faculty? So if your faculty is interested in doing something and industry is looking for some solution and they are able to see, the quantum of funds is not important. See, these are the like platforms where you begin interaction with the industry. So quantum initially you may be getting few lakhs to start with, but the quantum is not very important. It's an important that you have to break the silos. You have to break the ice and reach out to them first. So you just provide their solution to their problems. Even if it is for free also. Encourage your faculty and students to work with them and give them solutions to their small problems. You can reflect it as like your achievement of TECs. Then incubates. If you have incubators and you have, I don't know whether Nikkei has an incubator or not. Even if you don't have, there must be other universities and engineering college. NIT Surathkal, they have an incubator. I'm aware of it. So how many students or faculties you have encouraged to have their startups in those incubators? How you have pushed them to get incubated there? So all these things will count in your work profile and in your achievements. Then how do you, if local government bodies, they have come up with some problem, how you have provided solutions for them? I will just discuss a classic example with you. We have a hub, National Hub for Healthcare Instrumentation, already working at Anna University. So their main focus is on development of biomedical devices. So state government came to them, they were looking for a solution for child theft. And Supreme Court has ordered them, the local government, the health department, to look for some technical solution to resolve this issue. So our hub at Anna University, they came up with the RFID tag system for mother and child so that the child theft could be prevented. So the system has been implemented in all the government hospitals in Chennai region right now. So this is the kind of activity we are looking from this enabling center. So once you have been flagged a problem, you just go to the, you should have a, you should know which are the right groups to approach and get solution for that problem. So this is how you can help the local government or government bodies. Then interaction with industries, institutions, local bodies, continuously you have to interact with them. Create the platforms and opportunities for interaction so that at least you develop a healthy relationship with them. And if you try to approach them just once in a year for sake of doing some meeting, so that interaction will not gel out in anything concrete. So this interaction has to be a regular interaction so that whenever they have some issue, so they know whom to approach. Then training programs you can design for industries. Say industries having some kind of like skill problem. So you can always help in designing those training programs from industry. For that, you can very well charge from the industry, but you can at least look for the right people who can train their workforce for those issues. Then you have to prepare the reports and white papers in the areas that you would be interested in for the government. And then you have to think of revenue generation. Just like I quote an example, like you work for the government, you provide any solution to them, you organize training programs for the industry. Those are the sources with which you can generate the revenue. And tomorrow you will become self-sustainable. So you have to look for opportunities, how you will generate the revenues. Say if you are helping a team in project formulation, you can keep some component for KEC if he gets the project. So this is the kind of activity, soft work that you have to do to generate the revenue and establish yourself and create a space for yourself in the system. So I think I have covered most of the points that I have noted down. And eventually, like you can have spoken hub model also. So initially, like yours is the main center, you can encourage others also. And if you are able to perform well, so department can think of going for the hub and spoke model also. So or some other centers which are coming up in a big way and you need like more quantum of resources. So we can think of after thorough evaluation to support your satellite centers also. And moreover, like when you are doing the mapping and looking for the people who can contribute to your kitty, not everybody has an appetite for technology development. So please be discreet and get those people only in your kitty who have the inclination and passion for technology development. So you have to encash on their strengths. So, when we look at the technology transformation, translation, and technology development, so this last slide, please. Last slide. So this is the classic example, Xenobot, where we have combined life, living, and non-living, and we can prepare a robot which has the life component attached to it. So this is the classic example of technology translation. So where we have reached. So technology has crossed all the boundaries of living, non-living, and now we are at the realm of the technology where we have this artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, robotics, and then we have sensor technologies. All these are the key technologies which are going to shape our future tomorrow. So we will be crossing the border lines of living, non-living sometime in order to find a solution to our problems. So that is the strength and that is the contribution of technology. So we have to exploit it at the right time. From Government of India is also proactive. Many of you will be aware every year in the budget speech itself, since last 2-3 years, FM is announcing the new scientific programs. This year, this quantum computing program was announced, which is given to scientific department. Prior to this, this cyber physical system program was announced, which is again being implemented by the scientific departments. So all these things show the interest of government, reflect the interest of government and the need of technology translation. That is the need of the hour. So, and already I told you, research-wise, we are doing very well and we have reached the third position. And our institute, JNCS, are just next to you in Bangalore, Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Research. So it's a DSK institute, and worldwide it has got the 5th global ranking for doing the best research in the area of this medical science, or not medical science, sorry, biotechnology and their area. So this is the excellence that we are achieving from the country side. So our motto should be whatever is there in the lab, it should go out of the lab for the benefit of people and society by and large. So, TECs have to enable people to translate their research and take it to the next level. So with those few, these are not few words. I have already taken, I think, more than 1 hour and bugged you with all these suggestions, but still, our motto is, it's an inclusive effort. We are from the government side, and until and unless we have the support of the researchers, we have support of the universities, the academic community, we cannot move ahead. So we can come up with the funds, ideas, schemes, but ultimately it has to be implemented by universities like you. So if you all can set a good role model system, so these schemes can be amplified by people, and we all can be benefited from this ecosystem. So it all depends on the success, on the role, on the model that these 9 universities are going to create. And we are willing to work hand in hand. Anytime you can call us and give your suggestions, and we will see how to incorporate your fine suggestion in our scheme component. So right now, one more thing I forgot to add, the consultation for next public policy is going on. You can visit the PSA website and give your suggestion to how you want science and technology ecosystem to be. So the public consultations for the next public policy is on. I will just put the link in the KEC, our group also. Yeah. So now it's all inclusive. Whatever we do, all of us have to sit together, think, plan, and put in the effort to realize big things. So with that words, I thank you all for the patience. And such busy doctors right now, you all are too busy with your regular jobs also, and you could take out the time and be with me. So, please free to feel and ask any questions if you have.
Thank you, Dr. Anita. As usual, the clarity and the vision you have for technology development is crystal clear. You appreciate your thought of think local and act global, and also the sustainable and inclusive solutions to local problems. Gone is the time when we sit and expect somebody else to come and help us out. It is up to us now to take up the rein and solve our own problems and be self-sufficient. So this is the goal of Indian government, and it's very clear in your speech or in your lecture. You have given us a lot of clarity on several issues. Thank you so much, ma'am. We now move on to the next speaker of this session, Professor Dr. Alka Kulkarni, our registrar of the NITE deemed to be university, a PhD from VTU and an MBA holder. She's an excellent administrator highly knowledgeable on prevailing examination and administration system, not only of our university, but education system on the whole. She is responsible in streamlining the examination system, completely modernizing it with installation of surveillance, jammers, and all the techs. She has also ensured the implementation of anti-plagiarism software by use of Turnitin in all institutions of the university. She was a part of the first time decentralization counseling of Karnataka Examination Authority of the CET cell Bangalore for allotment of medical, dental, engineering, architecture, homeopathy, Ayurveda, and Unani seats in the Karnataka state government. She was the chief coordinator of PGCET examination for conducting and counseling of the PG seats for MBA, MCA, and MTech. She's a member of board of several studies, and what we most appreciate about her is her meticulous nature, attention to detail, constant support, and encouragement to our university. Over to you, ma'am.
Please unmute.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Smita, for the introduction. And a very good morning to all of you. Dr. Anita Agarwal, it was wonderful listening to you about the clarity. We get more and more clearer about what is our role, what is it is going to be, how we have to go ahead, and all the things. Thank you so much for the clear vision and what you have said about what we need to do, what is our responsibility, and how we need to go ahead. From what all that you have said, the main thing that comes out is the institutional linkages that we need to develop. The institution linkages are the key to the success of the technology enabling center that has been set up here, that so much of trust has been given to the NITE University that we should take it ahead. Now, madam, yes, institutional, when we speak, yes, we are aware we need to network with the medical colleges, engineering colleges, science colleges, maybe even schools. Because we have seen, even the UGC, in most of their final years, they always put in something called a project, a dissertation work, where most of our youth, young people, they have such good ideas. They need only a little handholding of the staff, which may bring out such wonderful things and technologies, innovations out of them. Now, we are in between. One end, we have all these colleges, which we need to get them into the fold. The other end, we need to see which are the industries, which are the startups, which are the MSMEs, which are try to take up this and translate it into the technology that you have been speaking so much about. I know maybe what I say now is a little out of the thing, not exactly technology, but just to illustrate a small example. In a school, there was some student who asked his science teacher, it was a Kannada school, Madam, now do you understand Kannada? Okay, I'll say it in English. Yeah, I'll say it in English. Madam, when we cry, the tears come out at the edge of our eyes. But when we laugh, why do they come from the center? When we laugh, and then you get tears, why does it come? The science teacher was, he was really, didn't know the answer. Fortunately, he met one of my friends who was a physics professor. So he asked him, and he said, this is something that a student in my school is asking. That fellow was just in the 6th or 7th grade school. This set the professor thinking what it is. And then he explained about the surface tension, how the surface tension, when you're crying, you're not laughing. But when you start laughing, your eyes move, your eyes become smaller. And then because of the surface tension, just before that only it falls out, before reaching the edge of the eye. So that was something which caught my interest. And I know that this professor has, then formed a science group and went to schools for teaching, because he was so interested in what even school children are thinking, what new things they are thinking, and how they observe, how they do. Now imagine this being in our school. We do have a lot of talent in our youth, in colleges, in medical schools, and engineering schools. There are students who have been doing wonderful projects, but as you have already said,
it is not seeing the day of the light. And that's how I think now the government has taken up, has given responsibility to university like us. We are very thankful for you, for the government to identify us. I would just like to go into a brief about the institutional linkages strength that the NITTE University has. Madam, we are managed by the NITTE Trust, and the NITTE Trust has a lot many institutions under its ambit. Two of them, one is the NMM Institute of Technology in the NITTE village. Now, I would just like to again say NITTE is the name of a village and not an acronym. So this NMM Institute of Technology is an engineering college in the NITTE village, and we have an NMIT Institute of Technology in Bangalore under the same trust. Now, this NMM Institute of Technology has a new age incubation networking center. Now, this new age incubation center, it has been sort of granted to the college by the Department of IT, BT and Science and Technology of Karnataka. And this was formed in 2014, this incubation center. And it has an object or a platform to provide nurturing and trying the innovations of these students of the college and the nearby colleges. So this particular incubation center that we have in NITTE is responsible to handhold all the students who come up with real good ideas. Next, just recently, the NITI Aayog has sanctioned the Atal Incubation Center to the same NMM Institute of Technology. Now, as you know, the Atal Incubation Center is another thing which tries to handhold all these young researchers and students who come out with all the innovative ideas and how they take it ahead. So the Atal Incubation Center has just become operational, and we also are trying to link the tech to this, tech with the New Age Incubation Center, tech with this Atal Incubation Center. So we are talking to all the people who are heading that to see that first we form a network, and then the functioning becomes probably more smoother and more easier. Likewise, at Bangalore, the NM Institute of Technology, there's a MSME Technology Incubator. Now, this is given by the Ministry of the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Government of India. So we have a MSME Technology Incubator there, where they give 6+ lakhs for the startups. This incubator tries to handhold them, see that the technology is put onto a higher scale. They try to, validate the things and they handhold them. They not only do that, they do the guiding and mentoring of the maybe the young entrepreneurs. They connect with the capitalists that are there, venture capitalists, and commercialize the innovative ideas for the new products, processes, or even services. Apart from this, they are also doing a lot of awareness programs for the young entrepreneurs. They call successful entrepreneurs to come and tell the success stories to the students. So whereby maybe in 1,000, 5 get motivated and then they do things. It's how normally the students are doing that. So the NMIT MSME Incubation Center is really performing very well and both in our engineering colleges. These are really doing very well. Apart from this, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Satish Kumar Bhandari, has drawn up a lot of MOUs with industries. Now, he is very interested in this particular thing, the MOUs between industries and the academia. They will definitely, whatever new things are there, we try to translate into this. So even our pharmacy college is linked up with certain industries here. So wherever these kind of things, the research, taking it to a different level, higher level, are being done. So most of this, I think we are going again with your clarity about it. We feel more stronger now that yes, we do have these linkages and we can do better. So that is giving us more strength, madam. And I'm sure and very hopeful that our Technology Enabling Center, which is located here to encourage on behalf of the government, all the youngsters, the innovators, the researchers, and trying to translate their ideas into a truthful technology, a good technology which reaches to the market, which is taken up by the industries. And then, yes, I think if this really happens and we are even able to contribute, I think what our Prime Minister is saying, Atmanirbhar India, with the industry is getting our own technology, in-house technologies, I think that would be great, madam. So I just wanted to say, yes, we are equipped a lot. We do have a very strong thing about the industrial linkages or institutional linkages, I should say. And we are hopeful that we shall take this to definitely the vision that you have shown us, madam. Thank you so much. Thank you, Smita. You can
I want Nikki to be a model center and others should follow your lead.
Yes, madam. We are now, after listening to you, we are all, more motivated.
No,
The Vice
the
Chancellor.
kind of strength you have, your VC have, your team has is simply, amazing. If you people cannot do it, then who will do it?
Madam, we shall try to definitely live up to what you're saying with the Vice Chancellor guiding us and strong people like Karuna Sagar and Smita and all very enthusiastic about this. I think, madam, yes, we should be doing
Because
something.
your thought process is well aligned with each other. And when you have a good team, it becomes easy to implement the thing.
Yes, madam.
My
Very true,
compliments to you.
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Alka Kulkarni. Dr. Anita ma'am, now you know how fast we are and what good students we are. One lecture from Dr. Anita and we are sparked up and quick to uptake. Thank you so much, ma'am, for the kind words. Now we have the next speaker, Professor Dr. Indrani Karunasagar, the key person of this technology development cell or enabling cell. Professor Dr. Indrani Karunasagar is a renowned scientist in the field of microbiology. She's an alumni of KMC Manipal, where she completed her MSc and PhD in microbiology. Her academic career spans across four decades, beginning from KMC Manipal, JIPMER, Pondicherry, and so on. She was a professor and head of the microbiology department of College of Fisheries, Mangalore. Her overseas experiences include postdoc from University of Stirling, UK, UNESCO Biotechnology Fellow at prestigious University of Maryland, University of Baltimore, and she was the visiting professor to University of Würzburg, Germany, and University of Ghent, Belgium. She is the director of the UNESCO Center for Biotechnology, scientific advisor to International Foundation of Science, Stockholm, Sweden. She is the vice chair of the International Jury of UNESCO Life Science Prize for Research and Social Relevance. She is the recipient of several prestigious and coveted awards, such as the National Technology Development Award from the Government of India. She is the fellow of the National Academic Agricultural Sciences, NAAS. She has received the Vishwesvaraya Award for Excellence in Research and Lifetime Contribution to Science and Technology from the Government of Karnataka. She has received the Kidwai National Bioscientist Award from Government of India, Lifetime Achievement DBT, Asia Pacific Award for Eminence in Aquatic Virology, over 300 publications in high impact journal, edited 3 books, guided 40 PhD students and master's students who are now very well placed in international and national agencies, has over 8,570 citations, H index of 49, I-10 index of 154, and she's a legend in herself. Currently, she's thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us, motivating us constantly. Over to you.
Thank you, Smita. Well, that leaves very little room to speak for the purpose for which I'm here, because the story of the achievements was very long. And if she left out something, it was that I have had a man all the time guiding me, Dr. Karunasagar, and I have 2 daughters. And I have a set of colleagues who have probably been the best that anyone could have while leading any institution. NITE has enabled me to grow into a full person, having started with, of course, medical, and after a full round of spending 3.5 decades with fisheries, I am back to the field in which I would have loved to connect now the different sciences, with One Health being my priority. Having said all of this, I can only now say, Madam, Dr. Anita, you have already heard the people at the helm of affairs, and any program becomes a success in this country if you have the heads of any university supporting you fully, because most of the time the problems encountered are when you have discord between those who are performing and those who are at the very top. And towards that, I'm not going to detail, which I intended to, all the activities that are already going on in tech, but to let you know that the constant encouragement from the Honorable Vice Chancellor, the management of NITE University, our registrar has already given her peace of mind in detail, will go a long way in achieving all what we have laid out during the early part. We have, in spite of COVID, been forging forward. As regards specifics, I would like to say that a smart village program is operating in conjunction with the engineering institution, the Atal Incubation Center. Yes, CEO of that has already an memorandum of agreement with NITE University. We are sister institutions, and the Vice Chancellor has been ably leading that program as well. And when it comes to other application-oriented work between the engineering and the medical, a lot has been going on in devices, medical devices. We had made mention of a few of this during some of our meetings to help you rest assured that the beginnings have been made and we will march forward. I can't even say we will move forward, we will march forward. And regarding the support that we expect to give to all of the institutions in and around this district, and in and around, we can assure you that the technologies that have been identified having a potential will certainly be supported to a greater level. There are several apps in the medical institutions that have been developed, in the engineering institutions of NITE that have been developed, which cater to public health, which are also available for, I should say, mother and child health care. But a lot of the work that has happened in this university or in many of the institutions in and around were, I think, not brought to the fore because very often each one of us thinks what we've done is not enough and a lot more remains to be done. And I think it's the tech that is going to give a pat on the back of people with your support to tell them you're on the track. It's likely that this has greater application value. Some of it is already applied in the various institutions, whatever has been developed. But now they will find a forum where we will show them as a technology that has come out from the medical college, from the engineering college, or with the joint collaborative efforts. We have already been working also with the NITK, Dr. Gangadharan there, who is heading the medical device unit and all, has been helping. We had him on another webinar some time ago. The future of this program will be in a lot of webinars that will enable you to also see the translational part of what has happened in the various institutions. I must inform you, we have already mentioned it to you before, but we know we have a lot of registrants who are probably also listening and who would like to know the justification of NITE having got, and we've tried to live up to it, a repository of all the equipments available in the entire university, which is available for use by others at a nominal price. According to me, nothing should be free, and therefore the value of it will be in the little amount also that they pay, but more importantly, the help that they will get if they come to use these equipments by payment. It could be on a collaborative mode in developing a technology or in writing a publication. Of course, these days we have moved from thinking more and more about impact factor to looking at the impact of what we have done in society. And this was a statement I first heard 5 years ago, I think, from Dr. Smita when she joined us. And she said, madam, my impact factor may not be high, but the impact of my work will be good, she said. I said, okay, fine. I like that sentence, I said. And today I'm happy to state that a combination of both, because the world judges you on impact factor. The PERS program looks at your I-10 and H-index, and they cannot do away with one. We have to see that there is complementarity and help those who probably have information available that can become a good publication so that there is recognition. A patent cell that was established in the university has been doing well. Technology transfer and patent policies have been evolved. And I would like through this webinar to inform everybody, not only in our university, but all of the other people, including there are friends from other DST techs, yes, who would be doing all of what we are doing, but there are other institutions that can make use of our facilities to, we can help them apply for patent, we can help them make a technology if they have had a very good model that is prepared. More importantly, everyone thinks that what is done can become a technology. Validation is a very important part of the technology, however small it is. Dr. Anita gave a very good example about the RT-PCR and COVID. Now, we are all at it. Now, how do we think? What we think is the best has to be considered best by the industry. And while industry will do their own validation, we need to validate before it goes. And with a research center such as ours, having the best of facilities, I think, in the country, thanks to the NITI management that helped set up a lot of it, we will be able to do the validation through some of the posts who have been, that have been sanctioned, who are appointed in this because they are scientists, and they will validate some of it because that is part of the technology transfer to the industry. Because I have had one of my friends, Dr. Sudha Mysore, who is with the Agritech in Delhi. And at one time we were discussing, and she even asked whether, everything that one claims to be a technology, it really is a challenge to convert it into something that the industry also feels is worthy of. And therefore, while discussing, I said, we can be a validation center for many of the technologies, because unless your knowledge is strong enough, you cannot be a validation center. Fortunately, with a research center, which is running a biomedical science program, apart from all the medical engineering institutions, pharmacy institutions, we have biomedical science program, a food safety and biotechnology program, and very recently, last week, our Honorable Vice Chancellor is aware of it, we have been selected by the Department of Biotechnology to offer the Marine Biotechnology Program. So Mangalore being a location where there is agriculture, fisheries, medical institutions, food industry, dairy, we have ample opportunities of coming together for collaboration. And through a one-year research that a master's student does, we certainly have a proof of concept that goes into a PhD program that is done. And therefore, industries start collaborating with funds as well to us to see that we are working on topics that are relevant to the society here. And therefore, much of our workshops that we have conducted in the university since the sanction of DST, which really didn't wait for funds at that time, was related to identifying problems of the industry. Instead of doing what we want to do, we decided we would do what they find is a problem. And that, I think, is one of the first steps, the handholding, the support we got, and the hope that we will carry forward whatever the country is expecting, having given such a lot of monetary input, and the management to find and carve a niche for herself in the world science. I think without taking much time, because we've already run out of a lot of, excellent presentations. And what we have to say could be a lot more, because we would have had to say what we have done. Some technologies are ready for industry to take. We wanted to have this webinar first and the COVID situation to improve before we release it officially through the DST Tech. Industries have been in touch with us. And as you said, it is not the volume of money. So even if someone pays 1 lakh or 2 lakhs to take a technology, it's still for the university a name, for our country to realize that their input is bearing fruits in the form of recognition of the worthiness of application to society. So with these few words, I would like to say thanks a lot, and I hope the flag of Nitte will fly high always and make you feel proud that your investment is worthwhile. Of course, it has to be, tangible in terms of quantitative metrics that we have given you. But that, I'm sure, we'll work for it. Our newsletter will also speak volumes in the days to come. Dear sir, thank you, sir. Thank you, Registrar Madam, and Anita and Smita for holding this program efficiently. Dr. Anita, thank you again. I'm only all the time nervous. I hope we will never let you down for the faith you have reposed through the meeting. And supercritical fluid extraction for the jasmine growers, for the pepper growers, and for all of the spices that will yield a lot of these medicinal oils, that is there in the forefront.